Tonight, record funding for the NHS. The Scottish Government's budget finds more cash for the health service and promises to scrap the two-child benefit cap, but council tax looks set to rise. We'll be looking at the winners and the losers. Also making the headlines, a mother's plea. Fawzia Javed was pushed to her death by her husband from Arthur's Seat in Edinburgh.
If you are being abused, reach out to people that you trust.
The Scottish midwives are creating special scrubs for birth partners which could revolutionise neonatal care.
And tonight's sport comes live from Ibrox ahead of a huge night in the Scottish Premiership.
I'm John Mackay. This is the STV News at 6. Good evening. There's cash for kids and parents and record funding for the NHS, but council tax looks set to rise. The Finance Secretary, Shona Robertson, describes her first budget under John Swinney as filled with hope for Scotland's future. Opposition MSPs accuse her of financial mismanagement. So, among the main plans, the Scottish Government is ending the two-child benefit cap. It'll be scrapped in Scotland by 2026. Kids in P6 and P7 will get free school meals if they come from a family on a low income. The NHS will receive record funding of £21 billion next year, and there's a promise to cut waiting times. Income tax rates are being frozen. But the council tax freeze is over. It's set to increase next year. Our political correspondent, Ewan Petrie, has the details.
The two-child benefit cap prevents parents claiming universal credit for a third child.
People on the bus go up and down.
Today, the Finance Secretary announced it would be scrapped. Shona Robertson urged the UK Government to provide the data needed to make the change.
My challenge to Labour is to work with us, join us in ending the cap in Scotland, give us the information that we need. But either way, let me be crystal clear. This government is ending the two-child cap, and in doing so will lift over 15,000 Scottish children out of poverty.
The measure is a key part of the Scottish Government's ambition to eradicate child poverty.
The Scottish Government need to go as fast as they can on this. The UK Government need to play ball too. Frankly, the UK Government should do this for all of the UK. It's a horrible policy which deserves the bin tomorrow, never mind in 2026 when the Scottish Government wants to do it. But yeah, I mean, it would be political suicide for the Scottish Government to say they were going to do this and then not do it due to some sort of administrative technicality.
Income tax rates have been frozen. The amount at which the 20% and 21% rates is paid will increase.
That means more of people's money will be taxed at the starter and basic tax rates. This also means that the majority of taxpayers in Scotland will continue to pay less income tax than in the rest of the UK. And I can commit today that this will remain true until at least the end of this Parliament.
There will be a record £21 billion for health and social care. Local authorities will receive an extra £1 billion. The council tax freeze will also be lifted, which could mean higher bills next year.
I'm struggling just now as it is. You know, I live on my own, I've got lots of bills to pay and rent and things, and that's just another more added expense.
I think we should be getting a lot more out of it, or a lot more benefits for what we're paying for.
I suppose if you know that it's going to go towards what it needs to be going towards, then it's worth it, but nothing ever seems to change, does it?
There will be £768 million to build affordable homes, while the culture sector will see its budget increase by £34 million. Businesses are facing rising costs through an increase in national insurance contributions. The hospitality sector has welcomed a reduction in rates.
It's really good any cuts they do, any help to do with the business. We see before from Scottish Government to help through COVID and everything, and the British Government from Mr. Sinuk and everything. I do believe they do understand the problem.
It's a budget that delivers hope for Scotland, and I urge Parliament to support it.
The Finance Secretary has urged opposition parties to back her budget. MSPs will vote on the proposals in February. Ewan Petrie, STV News.
Our political editor Colin Mackay was watching the budget. Colin, we'll come to whether the opposition parties will support it in a moment. But first, what did you make of it?
Well, this was the most upbeat budget in the Scottish Parliament for years, I would say. There was no talk of austerity, but then, you know, they've got more money to spend. A total of £63.5 billion next year. Now, some of it is about fixing their own budget from last year, that £200 million extra for the housing spending, for example. But the real rabbit from the hat was undoubtedly the announcement of axing the two-child benefit cap. It was introduced by the Conservative government, kept by Labour after the general election this year. Now, they're promising to scrap it in 2026. That's a Scottish Parliament election year, and it'll cost about £150 million. But it's clever on two levels. One, because it embarrasses Labour a bit. Scottish Labour wanted the two-child benefit cut scrapped. Starmer said no, Swinney has said yes today. But also, if you speak to the children's poverty charities, they say this is the single biggest thing that could be done to lift children out of poverty. About 15,000 children out of poverty in Scotland. Now they have to deliver it, as you heard in Ewan's report there. But also, to get this budget through, John Swinney's minority government still has to find some support from other parties. And here's how they reacted.
The reality is that we are paying a heavy price for years of SNP waste on ferries, on gender reforms, failed independence bids and a national care service that has already cost the nation £30 million. The benefits bill, rising by a further £800 million, is out of control.
It's not enough just to try and correct the mistakes made last year by putting back the money that was slashed in the budget or in the cuts chaos of the now annual SNP emergency budget in the middle of the year. And can she finally accept that her statement amounts to quite literally more of the same, sending Scotland ever faster in the wrong direction?
This budget contains a huge cut to core council services like schools and social care. It fails to expand free school meals to primary 6 and 7. It cuts the Nature Restoration Fund and the cycling, walking and safe routes funding, and efforts to make homes warmer and greener fall short by £250 million. I will not dismiss the positive steps taken, but does the Scottish Government accept that if they want green support, significant further changes will be required?
The Government have listened to us and included spending on social care, affordable homes, insulation, winter fuel payments for pensioners, on additional support needs, on ferries and tunnels, GPs, dentists, long COVID, mental health, on Edinburgh's Eye Pavilion, the Belford Hospital, and business rate relief for hospitality. All of these were Liberal Democrat demands, and they are in the budget. But let me be clear, Presiding Officer, this does not guarantee our support.
The Government promised in 2021 to provide free school meals for all primary school children, and this budget does not deliver on that.
Reaction in the Parliament, but as you said, Colin, still no guarantee they'll get the budget through.
Yeah, MSPs don't vote on the budget for another 2 months, so I suppose now the real negotiations can get underway. The Greens say they still have some concerns. The Lib Dems, you heard there, reel off a long list of what they'd already got in the budget, but even that still doesn't guarantee their support. It was a bit like that Monty Python sketch of what have the Romans ever done for us. But I think there will be a deal. I think the budget will get through come February. But one thing in this budget, which affects pretty much all of us, is income tax. If you earn less than £30,300, you will pay slightly less income tax in Scotland than you would in the rest of the UK. If you earn more than £30,300, you will pay a bit more income tax than you would in the rest of the UK. Council tax, though, will go up. There's no freeze next year, but it's up to councils to decide how much they will put that up. I've heard suggestions of anything from 7 to 17%. So what will happen to your council tax? Well, that is the big unknown from the budget today.
Colin, at the Scottish Parliament, thank you. The mother of a pregnant woman who was murdered by her husband is calling for greater protection for others experiencing honour-based abuse. Just days before she planned to end her marriage, Fawzia Javed was pushed to her death from Arthur's Seat in Edinburgh. 3 years on, her mother has returned to Scotland, calling for more legal recognition of a hidden crime and help for those forced to suffer in silence. Yasmin Javed has been speaking to our chief reporter, Sharon Frew.
She was not only my daughter, but my best friend and confidant.
From the darkest days of grief, great strength. The trauma of losing her only daughter and unborn grandchild is this mother's driving force, giving her courage to speak out about a form of abuse that is vastly underreported.
It's destroyed my family to the core. The grief and pain has brought us down to our knees. We're not living anymore, we're just existing.
Oh, that's quite cute. Fawzia Javed was 17 weeks pregnant when she was murdered by her abusive husband. Her dying words to a police officer after she was pushed from Arthur's Seat helped convict her killer.
Fawzia did all the right things. Obviously, we had the police in twice. She documented all the evidence. She even contacted divorce lawyers. She did have a plan, but he got to her before she could carry out that plan. Those coercive control, those domestic abuse and financial abuse going on. Obviously, it was domestic abuse, but there was this extra layer of honour-based abuse where the perpetrator was abusing Fawzia to uphold his so-called honour because he didn't want Fawzia to leave him and divorce him because of that shame element. But there is no shame in getting out of an abusive marriage.
Each light represents a life lost to honour-based violence. The voices tell the untold stories of hidden victims.
My name is Shafilia Ahmed. I was killed in 2003, age 17.
The experiences of mothers, daughters and sisters brought into the light and remembered.
Currently in Scotland and the UK, there is no statutory definition of honour-based abuse, and this is what we're hoping for with the Scottish Government, to make sure that we're the ones that are leading the way and actually defining this type of abuse, because if you can't define it, you can't tackle it. And it's important when it comes to Police Scotland that we also recognise that there's multiple perpetrators, often in honour-based abuse, but also domestic abuse, and those are all things that I think are not quite recognised at the moment.
The Scottish Government says it is committed to listening to the voices of those affected by honour-based violence. Extended family abuse and coercive control are just some of the issues being discussed by an advisory group.
It is actually extremely complex to unpick all of that and to make sure that we have a definition that would actually be robust, and whether legislation would be required in order to enforce that and how that would actually work.
Fawzia's mother remembers her daughter as the first to help anyone in crisis. She hopes her story will break down barriers for others in need of support.
If you are being abused, reach out to people that you trust. You're not on your own, and you will be believed.
Sharon Frew, STV News.
And if you need help, here are some details of organisations that can assist. Amina is on 0808 801 0301. And Scotland's Domestic Abuse and Forced Marriage Helpline is 0800 027 1234. Midwives at St John's Hospital in Livingston have created a game-changing set of scrubs for birth partners, which they say could revolutionise neonatal care. The specially designed scrubs have a kangaroo-style pouch to allow vital skin-to-skin contact to take place as soon as a baby is born. Vanessa Kennedy reports.
This kind of contact wasn't possible straight away for Michael when his wife Sarah gave birth to their previous 2 children via C-section. But when his daughter was delivered in theatre 2 weeks ago, Michael was given the option to wear these specially designed scrubs with a kangaroo-style pouch, meaning little Isla was able to feel the warmth of skin-to-skin contact as soon as she was born 2 weeks ago.
It was good to feel like I had a role to play this time instead of just sitting there and then being sent to the waiting room, because it feels like a long 30 minutes when you're waiting on her getting put back together.
It meant that Michael and the baby, so Isla, stayed with us till the surgery was complete, which is the first time for me having them both with me.
Initial skin-to-skin contact with the mum directly after giving birth can be challenging in a theatre setting. Midwives say a lack of this kind of warmth can lead to a higher need for extra care.
It sort of helps with bonding for both mum and birthing partners. It keeps baby nice and calm. It helps with blood sugars and most importantly sort of temperature as well, so it's good for thermoregulation. So when babies get cold, it can affect their breathing, it can affect their blood sugar, and that can cause that they may end up having to be admitted to sort of a neonatal unit.
To combat this, Stacey invented these cosy cuddles scrubs so that dads or partners can also reap the many benefits of interim skin-to-skin contact.
In theatre, if dads were wanting to do skin-to-skin, they had to take their tops off, which a lot of dads, they're not comfortable with, especially in front of loads of strangers. And we used to have to just put the baby on their chest, cover them with blankets and towels, and again, that didn't keep them warm. With the fleece panel and also being in skin-to-skin with a birth partner, it makes them feel so much safer, and it helps them transition from being in utero to being in the outside world.
And that's something Michael and Sarah say could well be the secret to their latest edition's laid-back nature.
I mean, she's been super easy compared to the other two. She's been she's so relaxed, and if that had anything to do with it, then 100% it was well worth it.
The hope is that these scrubs will be distributed in hospitals across Scotland, so more families can share moments like this as soon as their baby enters the world. Vanessa Kennedy, STV News Livingston.
Scotland's last remaining nuclear power station will stay open longer than previously planned. EDF say Torness and East Lothian will keep producing electricity for an extra 2 years until March 2030. It was originally due to be decommissioned last year. A £150 million plan to upgrade the former Hunterston coal terminal in North Ayrshire has been approved. The site owner, Peel Ports Clydeport, has been given permission to completely redevelop the marine yard as it prepares the site for major renewables infrastructure. Work is expected to begin early next year. A trail of sculptures is open to commemorate King Robert the Bruce and his links to South Ayrshire. Caitlin Hutchison has been along to meet some of the local school pupils in charge of coming up with their design.
It's a project that's seen them learn about the legacy of Robert the Bruce and the landscapes integral to his story. All across North Carrick, ideas from the classroom brought to life.
It's amazing just thinking that, that will be there for like a lot of years, and just knowing that I could always come back to it and say, oh look, I made that.
I actually hadn't heard the story before, so it was like a new story to me, so I was just kind of thinking and like picking out pieces like, oh well, maybe I could do that, like a crown or the spider. Some people doing like shields and crowns, but me and my partner did Robert the Bruce on a horse. That's a lot of fun.
The community voted and the chosen pupil models were worked up into the finished designs, hand-bent, cut and welded into unique artworks.
One of the key things is actually to be honest to the kids' ideas and designs. With the project, it's been interesting because some of the ideas that have been produced are exactly like the designs. I've tried to do that and stay honest to the work. Sometimes it's the concepts that have actually grabbed or the ideas that have grabbed.
It's believed Robert the Bruce was born at Turnberry Castle and spent much of his life in North Carrick. This newly opened trail in his honour invites locals and visitors to explore the area and seek out fun installations on the way. Here in Maidens, this sculpture depicts the type of boat used when Bruce arrived at the harbour in 1306.
Each piece of artwork along the trail varies in scale and in materials designed to enhance the gorgeous natural landscape and connect to the life and story of Robert the Bruce here in South Ayrshire 750 years ago. And trailgoers can also download an app to help bring that history to life, and even the Bruce himself.
Unique QR codes create augmented reality imagery in the setting where they stand.
It would be quite eerie if the eyes followed you round as well.
In Mabel, the Lion of Carrick takes centre stage, long a symbol of the Scottish King. But Market Cross highlights not only his history, but also other significant local heritage.
The cross is a sort of vehicle to carry plaques of history, really, like Burns' parents and the collegiate church. And then you go to the sort of industries of Maybole, which were like agricultural industries and manufacturing, leatherwork, boot making.
On the panel we've got various interpretations which celebrate 500 years. So with the regeneration and the bypass going round the town, this was really just to hang on to the past and make sure it's not forgotten.
The artworks are crafted from steel and bronze in order to stand the test of time, but also make sure we're future-proofing the past. Caitlin Hutchison, STV News in South Ayrshire.
To sports and big games in the Premiership tonight, Rory is at Ibrox with the latest.
STV Sport, sponsored by C.R. Smith this Christmas.
A very good evening live from Ibrox, a very wet Ibrox stadium ahead of what could be a huge night of Scottish Premiership action. 3 huge matches, the first up north, it's first v second as Celtic take on Aberdeen, looking to extend their lead at the top of the table. Here in Govan, Rangers welcoming Kilmarnock with Philippe Clement's men hoping to score more goals than they have recently in the Scottish Premiership, and Motherwell travel to Dundee looking to turn their fortunes around.
It's away from home, and every game away from home, especially the top teams, it's always a challenge. So we'll expect that there, but I also expect us to, from the first whistle, really go to create the game and look to give Aberdeen problems.
Nice to be back home at Pittodrie. It was a tough week with travelling last week and tough games. So it's nice to play in front of our supporters at home and use this atmosphere to go out with a lot of energy and a strong belief in what we can do and approach the game in that way.
To see that we handle the ball really well, in a better way than we did there in Rugby Park, that we handle the duels also better than we did in Rugby Park, and that we create in that way more chances, and that we score also more goals, of course.
What we've got to expect going there is just to try and reference a lot of what we did against them here not so long ago. It's a totally different environment, a totally different set of circumstances, but the game's still the game, and it's important that we try and be as good as we were individually. You almost need to be perfect at possession.
Our sole motivation is putting in a level of performance tomorrow night to give us the best opportunity to beat Motherwell at home. You know, our last 2 home games we've won, which I'm really pleased about. I think we're hoping we're going to build up that kind of home form that we had last year. I think the fans have been so important in that.
Just trying to pick ourselves up, trying to put ourselves in a position where we actually believe that we sit 5th in the league for a reason, that we've had a reasonably good start to the season and drawing all the positive factors, as well as start to eradicate the negativity of what's been 5 goals conceded in the last 2 games.
Huge night at the top of the Scottish Premiership. Elsewhere though, this evening, Hearts Chief Executive Andrew McKinlay has revealed the club have funding in place to secure their top striker target this January. He was speaking at the club's AGM, where Jamie Bothwick can explain what happened.
A club in robust health off the field, but struggling on it. Hearts generated more than £20 million in revenue last season, but right now they sit bottom of the Scottish Premiership.
Where we were in 2014 and where we are now is remarkable.
Feeling in the room is, disappointment at our league position overall.
Without being too optimistic, I've seen it a hell of a lot worse than it is. According to the accounts, everything seems good. So hopefully we'll start moving up the league.
And it's not just moving out of the relegation zone that Hearts have in mind. A partnership with Tony Bloom's leading analytics service, Jamestown, has uncorked fresh optimism.
With the use of their technology, using our finances wisely,
being as smart as we can be, I genuinely think we could challenge in Scotland.
For the title?
I do think that. I can't put a timescale on it, but Jamestown put their money where their mouth is in the way that they construct their contracts. They are highly incentivised for us to do well, and they're excited. They're very excited about what they think we could achieve.
And first up for the algorithm is finding a solution to Hearts' goal-scoring woes.
The finances are available to look at this particular striker we're looking at, but not just one. We're looking at, often you don't get your first choice. We're looking at a few, all of who have come from Jamestown.
Hearts are dreaming of a bright, data-led future. Of more immediate concern is climbing the Premiership table between now and the new year. Jamie Borthwick, STV Sport.
The late red card shown to St Mirren's Marcus Fraser on Saturday in their loss to Dundee United has been overturned. The defender was initially shown a yellow card by referee Matthew McDermott for this incident, but the foul was upgraded to a red after a VAR review. That was today judged to have been wrong, and Fraser is now free to play this weekend.
STV Sport, sponsored by CR Smith this Christmas.
John, in your nice warm studio, I'm handing back to you here at Ibrox, where I'm away to dry off a bit.
Get yourself under cover. Rory, thank you and enjoy. We see the rain in Glasgow. What's the bigger picture? Philip has the details.
An icy start to the day will give way to a series of oohs and ahs. TUI sponsors STV Weather.
Hello and a very good evening to you. If we take a quick look at the general picture for the next couple of days, tomorrow we've got a low pressure system moving across the country, bringing with it some frequent showers. Then on Friday, this area of low pressure moves in, and at the moment there is a lot of uncertainty about that. There is a chance that it could be our next named storm, so we're just keeping an eye on things, and we'll get to that in just a minute. Back to just now though, a fairly wet, miserable end to the day for many of us. We're keeping a hold of the blustery conditions, and that band of heavy and persistent rain is clearing through to the north and the northeast. Behind it though, through the early hours of tomorrow morning, it will leave behind some drier and clearer spells, with temperatures for most places staying above freezing, lows tonight of 4 or 5 degrees Celsius. Then looking ahead to Thursday morning, a relatively dry start to the day. There will be some brighter spells around first thing. It doesn't last long, however, as then we start to see this next front moving in, bringing with it bursts of heavy, showery rain throughout the course of the afternoon. A bit of a messy picture tomorrow, with temperatures reaching highs of around 10 or 11 degrees Celsius. Then looking ahead to a Friday, a colder start to the day, perhaps some frost in places, but again a dry start. Then the uncertainty begins as that next area of low pressure moves in from the west. At the moment, its tracking shows that it will bring with it some heavy and frequent showers for much of the country. However, there is still a chance that that could move a little further southwards, in which case we would miss the impacts. Bye-bye.
TUI sponsors STV Weather.
And finally, it's an award associated with the weird and wonderful world of visual art. And this year, the Turner Prize has been won by the Scottish artist Jasleen Kaur. The 38-year-old, who was born in Glasgow, received the award at a ceremony in London last night. Her exhibition, Alter, held at Glasgow's Tramway throughout last year, was praised for its unexpected and playful combinations of materials, including a car with a giant doily on it. Kaur is the 40th winner of the prize and receives £25,000. It is the Turner Prize. That's it from all of us. Have a good night. Scotland Tonight on at 10:40. Bye for now.